Hey, friends! Just so you know, we enjoy the swear word and we rely on good old fashioned humor to get through some seriously dark subject matter. At no time do we intend any disrespect toward the victims or families of the victims in the cases we cover. Also, be sure to listen to the end for a few palate cleansing bloopers to reset your mindset. And with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you enjoy.
Hey friends, welcome to Crime Will Tell. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Carrie.
How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Still riding the high off your wedding.
It was a
That's
good
so fun.
time. Good time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can I give just a quick shout out to someone?
Of course.
I think you'll appreciate this.
Okay.
So my friend Della, who's been a good friend of mine for decades now, and she was telling me that she loves the podcast and how much she enjoys listening and how she feels like she knows you just by listening. She's like, I feel like I know Carrie.
Really?
But she has always called me James. And
Oh,
I think the first time you called me James, I was like, my friend Della calls me James. I love
yeah.
it. And she was like, she calls you James too. And she was just like, I love it. So I wanted to say, hey, Della, I love you. Thank you for listening and just share that with you. Cause I was like, yeah, that was my original James nicknamer.
Oh,
So
that's funny. Hi,
yeah.
Della. It's nice to meet you. I don't know you, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you.
Yeah, she's
And
the
that's so
best.
cool that you call James James too.
Yeah. So on that fun note, I'm going to change speeds here.
Because we're a true crime podcast.
Yeah. And this is a case that I find particularly scary, and I've kind of mentioned this before in previous episodes, but like this isn't a case about, revenge or money or jealousy or, any of those things that we see a lot in cases. This case is simply about an innocent stranger being an easy target for someone who is completely just evil and twisted. So, what are you sipping on? Because I can guarantee you're going to need it today.
Well, fuck. I should probably fix because I tried.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Okay. First of
What
all,
the
I wanted
fuck is
something
that?
bigger. It's a wine. It's a wine glass.
I know, but it's
with bourbon with Four Roses, the rest of my Four Roses small batch bourbon. And then I tried to pair it with lime sparkling water.
oh.
My God, that's fucking awful. It just tastes like watered down bourbon. So I'm
Mm.
going to drink this. So that's what I'm drinking. Four Roses with lime sparkling water.
Mm.
Don't
Okay.
recommend.
I appreciate your sense of adventure, but don't
Mm-hmm.
do it again.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it again. What are you drinking?
It's 1879 bourbon. It was a wedding gift from my sister and my soon to be brother in law. Now that we have our drinks,
Cheers, my friend.
cheers to you. Clink, clink. So, Carrie, this case takes us to Grand Junction, Colorado, which is a city with around 70,000 residents, and it sits on the western side of Colorado near the Utah border. And it
Okay.
is beautiful. The pictures that I
Yeah.
saw, I've never been, but it looks fucking gorgeous. On February 28th of 2021, the Grand Junction Police Department received a call around 2 o'clock in the morning. And the call was about a vehicle that had gone into the Colorado River. It was
Oof.
partially submerged in the water at the Blue Heron boat ramp. So, if you're not familiar, it's the ramp that goes down to the water where you can launch your boats. And a car had gone down the ramp and was like partially submerged. The driver of the car was 19-year-old Brian Cohey Jr., and he was able to get out of the vehicle, out of the car before it began filling with water. So he was good. He was safe, but he was wet and he was cold and he was stranded by this river. So he was able to walk to a road that was nearby and flagged someone down. And so he was able to call his parents, his dad, Brian Sr., and his mother, Terry, to come, and get him, be with him. And then the police were notified, hey, this fucking car's in the river. From what I can tell, his parents are divorced or at least separated. I couldn't get a great sense of what was going on, but they lived separately, and Brian Jr. lived with his mom, Terry. But both of his parents showed up that night to help out their son. So it seemed
Okay.
like they were a close parental team, as far as parenting Brian Jr., but I couldn't get a sense if they were still what their status was as a couple.
So maybe they were like separated, but if their child's in trouble, whatever issues they have, they can put them to the side to
They
like be
came
there.
together to support
That's
their
cool.
kid.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it was their only child, so that was cool. So both of his parents were there that night, and when officers arrived at the scene, Brian Cohey, he was sitting with his parents, and like I said, he was cold and wet and just kind of shaken up by the incident, but,
Yeah.
is what it is.
That's
So,
alarming. You're 19 years
mhm.
old and somehow, some way, which I'm sure we'll get into it, his boat ended up in the water.
Or his car.
His boat ended up in the water.
That's where they go.
Jesus Christ, Kara. His car ended up in the water.
Are you present?
Fuck.
So, when questioned, Brian told police that after he watched a movie at home that night, he had decided that he was just going to kind of go out and drive around. And he ended up parking on the boat ramp to clear his head. As he was sitting there on the boat ramp, the car started rolling backwards down the ramp and into the water.
Wait, he decided to park on the boat ramp backing in to
Hmm.
clear his head,
Yeah, in the middle of the night.
and then his car happened to roll into the water.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So this is probably not a super common occurrence, but accidents happen and we all do
Suppose.
we all do stupid shit from time to time. And I know I've parked
That's
by
true.
water. I've
I
parked by
have.
water and sat in my car to clear my head before, never on a boat
Yeah.
ramp and never in the middle of the night, but whatever. I mean, plus he's a teenager and teenagers can sometimes be a little careless or reckless. So at this point, not much thought was put into it. And a tow truck was called to pull the car out of the water. And since Brian didn't appear to be injured, he was sent home by the police, to get dried off and warmed up. But his parents remained at the scene with police. I'm sure they wanted to just make sure that everything was okay and, probably get any personal items out of the car, things like that. So, as the tow truck driver was pulling Brian's car out, they noticed something strange. There appeared to be blood on the rear bumper of the car that had kind of dripped down like the trunk area underneath the license plate. And so the officer that was on the scene thought maybe Brian had cut himself getting out of the vehicle, which didn't really make sense unless he was a total fucking idiot and went the long way to get out of the water. But they were just kind of like, we don't know what's going on. So his parents and officers, they hadn't noticed any injuries on Brian and certainly no blood on him that would have matched the amount that was found on the bumper. But his mom ended up calling him and she was like, "Hey, are you hurt? Like, did you cut yourself?" And he was just like, "No, I'm fine. Why?" And she told him that blood was found on the car. And she just kept asking him if he was hurt. And he seemed surprised. He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he was just adamant that he was fine. So, again, strange, but not a lot of cause for alarm at this point. The vehicle was pulled out of the river from the boat ramp and it was towed to his father, Brian Cohey Sr.'s home. So, car's out of the river. It's taken to his dad's house. Problem solved, right? The next day, March 1st of 2021, police received another 911 call around 1:48 p.m. And this wasn't a, hey, some dum dum backed their car down a boat ramp into the river call. No, this was a call from Brian's mother, who was distraught and requesting that police come assist her at her home. She had made a very disturbing discovery in her son Brian's bedroom closet. She found a severed human head covered in maggots that was wrapped in a trash bag.
Well, you fucking buried the lead. This, pardon the pun, ramped up really fucking quick.
Right?
I bet the police are regretting just towing the car to Brian Sr.'s house instead of taking it to an impound lot to do some forensic analysis on that blood there.
Yeah. The 911 dispatcher was like, it's a what now? Why do you think that's a human head? And through sobs, she's like, because it looks like it. I saw an
Oh my
ear. She's like, what the fuck
God.
do you mean? And she said, do you want me to take a picture and send it to you? Can you just come? Like, she's basically like, can you just fucking get here? Like, she's freaking out. And I mean, you can listen to this 911 call and it's horrifying. She just wanted police to get there because she didn't know what to do. And I can't even imagine what all was just going on in her mind at that time.
That
And
is
so
wild.
while she's on this 911 call, her husband, Brian's dad, was in the front yard talking to Brian, who had just come home from a friend's house. And so his dad was like trying to keep him outside while his mom's on the phone with 911. And so his dad was trying to, keep him out of the house until police arrived. They wanted to make sure that he was back at the house before they called police, which was probably a really, really hard decision to make as parents.
Yeah.
Basically, they were like, we know our kid did something horrible and we want to make sure that he's here when police arrive so he gets arrested right away and doesn't hurt anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
that
Fucking
had to have
hard.
been just shocking on so many levels for them.
Absolutely the right decision made by Brian Sr. and Terry,
Yeah,
but it broke their hearts. I'm sure of it.
right. Yeah.
Fuck.
So as she's talking to the dispatcher, she mentioned that Brian has struggled with mental health issues. He was diagnosed with ADHD, autism, anxiety, and she also said that he has a big fascination with morbid topics. She thought that he was interested in kind of dark things because he wanted to become a crime scene investigator. So she was like, it doesn't, I thought that he was kind of just interested in that line of work. And
Yeah.
he, which makes sense. When asked if Brian had any weapons or if there were any in the home, she said she thought that he might have a shotgun in his room, but she wasn't sure, which I'm like, I would really want to fucking know if my kid had a shotgun, but whatever. Mesa County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the home and they're wearing body cameras. So there's footage of this whole interaction if you want
Oh,
to
wow.
watch it. And so Brian's mom, Terry, she's just crying. She's incredibly upset. And as the officer approaches Brian, he says, hey, man, your parents have some concerns of some stuff that they may have found in your room. Like what would that be? And Brian, calmly as hell, says, yeah, I believe so. A human head and hands from that fella that went missing recently. And the officer's like, uh, so how did you end up with him? And Brian just said, I murdered him with a knife. Just chill as fuck. Like he could have said my mom found my love sock that I keep under my mattress. Like, just matter of fact, just cool as can be, no big deal.
Did he say this in front of his parents?
Yeah, his parent, like his mom is
We're just standing right
hysterical.
there?
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, I can't imagine watching your kid be like, yeah, yeah, that guy that everybody's looking for. Yeah, I fucking killed him with a knife. His head and hands are up in my room. What? Like, no big deal. And he continued to say, I've always wondered what murder felt like. So this case has some serious parallels to episode 9 that we covered, the Zheng Yuzheng case, because
Oh,
she also wanted to know what
she
murdering
just
someone
wanted to
felt like,
know.
and
Yeah.
she just killed a stranger. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go check that one out.
It's fucking wild. This doesn't have a suitcase and a taxi, does it?
There are 0 of those.
Okay.
There's some other things, but yes, no, none of those. I can't imagine what these officers are thinking. Like, you just don't
Did
expect
they
to
know
get that
somebody was
call.
missing?
Yeah, the man that he's referring to, it, like, the dots are connected really quickly here.
Ah, okay, okay. Jesus.
So Brian was obviously immediately handcuffed and taken into custody. His dad led the officers into the home and to the kitchen where Brian's mom, Terry, had set 2 garbage bags in the kitchen sink. And sure enough, inside those bags were a severed human head and hands.
Why did she put him in the sink? Why couldn't she just like put him in a bucket in the fucking garage or yard
I
or
don't
something?
know. I think she just was like, I don't know exactly what this is, but
Listen to me. I'm like quarterbacking here. If I found a fucking severed head and hands in my son's closet, I don't know what the fuck I would do. I don't probably would remember the rest of the day.
yeah, I'm just
Could you
picturing like
imagine?
the Thanksgiving turkey sitting in the sink to thaw, but it's a fucking head. Anyway,
Hmm.
it's alarming and naturally, after portions of a dismembered body were found in his room, Brian was taken to the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And while he's in the car on the way to the station, as they were driving over a bridge, police body cam footage picked up Brian just from the back seat saying, "It was under this bridge." Like, just casually, just kind of pointed out, like, "This is where I murdered the guy."
Oh, that was the crime scene
Yeah. So he
under the
just, like, very
bridge.
just casually was like, "This is what I did." And this case is extra chilling to me because he is just so calm and matter of fact about what he did and is totally open, admits
Not
to
trying to
everything,
hide anything.
every interview, everything. It is just chilling. Meanwhile, his poor mother was fucking hysterical. While she was being interviewed by officers, she explained that she was in Brian's room putting some of his things away and tidying up a bit, which kind of annoys me because he's 19 years old and I
Yeah,
hate when
agreed.
moms baby the shit out of their kids. But anyway,
Exactly. You're not setting that kid up for anything good.
yeah, he's going to be a horrible partner to someone if you keep doing that shit.
He's going to murder
And
somebody if you keep this up. Just kidding.
so she's kind of just tinkering around his room, and there was a plastic storage tote in Brian's closet. And so she's kind of like, what the fuck does he have in here? She opened it, she starts going through it, just kind of thinking, like, what the hell's he got in here, whatever. And she found a white trash bag. And we know what she ends up finding. But to make this horrifying discovery an intense situation even worse, she ran a daycare out of her home. So as she is
Oh,
unwrapping a human head in her son's closet, there are multiple children under her care in her home. She's the only adult in the house with several young kids and a bag of unknown human remains. So after carrying the bags and placing them in the kitchen sink, she had to call the parents of all these kiddos and basically say, "Hey, we're having a family emergency. I'm like really sorry, but you're going to have to come pick them up." Trying to be calm and have these conversations. She also called Brian's dad at work and was like, I'm gonna need you to come here right now. Like ASA fucking P. We got some shit going down. And he did. Like I said, he caught Brian when he came home and was able to keep him outside until police arrived. And they thankfully made the decision to get their son into police custody as quickly and safely as possible. And I have big respect for his parents for making that decision.
absolutely. That just, this whole daycare situation, poor Terry. That
Yeah.
just, if it couldn't, one would say finding a body part in your son's closet can't get much worse than that.
Yeah.
I think it can.
Yeah, she's like, "Okay, everybody get some Cheez-Its and a Go-Gurt, and we're gonna go sit in the living room. Nobody look in the sink, okay? All right, we're gonna go wait for our parents."
Here's a clothespin for each of your noses. Don't ask questions.
Yeah, everybody hold a bowl of potpourri right under your face. It's gonna be fine.
Jesus
Ugh.
Christ. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. I feel like Terry, I haven't heard all the whole story, but I'm going to go ahead and make a statement here. I feel like Terry got fucking shafted with this.
Yeah. And there's we'll talk about her a little bit more, but I'm like, "Oh." So when Brian's father was interviewed by police, he was really open with the investigators about his son's behavior and some disturbing things that he had found. His parents knew that his mental health was a big issue for Brian and that his interest in morbidity had increased, but things had really taken a dark turn the night before. So this was the night that the car got stuck in the river. I mean, it's pretty obvious now that Brian was attempting to get rid of the rest of the body,
Yeah.
thus the blood on the rear bumper. But his parents and police weren't aware at that time. And thankfully, he was a sloppy idiot. Him backing the car too far down, into the water, hanging onto the parts of the body. Those things got him arrested very quickly after the murder, and thank goodness. So, anyway, Brian's dad explained to detectives that after Brian's car had been towed back to his house from the boat ramp, he was cleaning up the car, he was vacuuming the water out of it, and he ended up opening the glove box and he found a very large knife. This was like a 12-inch kitchen knife and a wallet. And so he's like, okay. So he opens the wallet, and that held an ID that belonged to a man named Warren Barnes. So he's like, what the fuck? Inside of the wallet, there was also the number for a local business. And so he was like, hey, I'm going to call the number, see if I can track down the owner. Maybe they know how to get in touch with this Warren Barnes and we can return this wallet to him. So he called and he explained the situation. And the woman that he talked to was like, oh, that's my Warren. He didn't show up today and we've like really been missing him. And so he was like, fuck. And this was the point that he knew that something wasn't right. And so he asked his son Brian about the wallet. Brian Jr. claimed that he found the wallet and he was planning on returning it to the owner. And I'm sure that his dad, wanted to believe him and that, he just had a kind kid who was trying to do the honest thing. But when you add the knife and the blood on the bumper to the missing man's wallet, the pieces of the shittiest puzzle are starting to fit together and form a horrifying picture. So the uneasiness and fears that he was feeling that night following the incident at the boat ramp were all confirmed when Terry made that devastating discovery in their son's room.
I was wondering if what Brian Sr. had discovered with the car happened before or after Terry's discovery of the head and hands.
Yes. Everything at the river was the night before. And she,
Right.
like, the next afternoon
Yeah.
is when she found the body parts. So there is video of the interview with Brian after he was arrested where he's telling investigators how the murder went down. And he's completely polite, he's calm, and it is just so fucking creepy because he is so disconnected from the horrifying things that he did. He was smiling and he was animated as he reenacted how he stabbed his victim. He was proud of what he did and seemed like he really enjoyed it. And it is, again, very strange to watch. If you're interested, there's footage of all these interviews. But during the interview, Brian said that after he watched a movie at home that night, the night of February 27th, he decided that he was going to go out and basically look for someone to kill. He said that there was a full moon that night, so you could see really well outside. When there's a full moon, it's like brighter outside and it's just a good night to look for victims, I guess. So he pretty much just drove around for hours looking for someone that he could kill, which would often do. He would watch homeless camps, and while driving underneath a bridge, he unfortunately found his victim. He told police, quote, "I was driving along and I see a shape here on the railway track." And I'm like, "Oh, interesting." I'm like, "That's a homeless person." So I grabbed my knife. I put on 3 layers of gloves because plastic gloves can betray their users because they're so thin. And he was also wearing a mask to cover his face. Anyway, he continued saying, "I took the knife, I pulled back the canvas, and I stabbed his neck." He was panicking at first. He was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I mean, he woke a peacefully sleeping man by stabbing him in the fucking neck. But he just repeatedly stabbed Warren. We now know it's Warren Barnes in the neck until he was dead. So Brian, who is 6'1" and weighs about 200 pounds, was on his knees in this interrogation room reenacting all of this. He said he was straddling Warren while he stabbed him, so he just wasn't in a position that he could fight back. And he said, quote, "It was actually surprisingly easy. I was barely breaking a sweat." He also said that during the murder, he was growling and making animalistic noises because he was so excited and on just a really big adrenaline rush. So as Warren begged for his life, he asked Brian, "Why are you doing this?" To which Brian told him, "I've been wanting to do this for a long fucking time, murder someone." Then Brian removed Warren's head and hands. He placed them in trash bags and took them home with him, where he placed the bags in that tote in his closet. His plan was to later dispose of those identifying parts. I'm sure probably drive them out somewhere or whatever.
Mm.
He said he tried to sleep that night, but was worried that police might be able to get a partial print from Warren's body because the gloves that he was wearing ended up tearing and got a hole in them. So he's laying there trying to sleep, panicking. So he left his house again in the night, drove back to the bridge, loaded Warren's dismembered torso into the trunk of his car, and drove it to the Blue Heron boat ramp on the river. He backed down the ramp, pulled Warren's body out into the water, and pushed it off with his feet so it floated away. And then his dumbass got his car stuck. As he is telling this all to police, the focus was all on him and not that he had taken an innocent man's life. He said that he knew after being wet that he needed to get help fast or he was going to die of hypothermia. And while laughing, he said, "I'm panicking a bit at this point. I'm going to be like, this is what I'm going to be remembered for, dying of hypothermia and a botched attempt at hiding a body." Like that was his big concern. Police ended up going to the bridge where Brian said the murder took place, and they found the horrific crime scene as well as Warren's arms and legs. And he confessed that he wanted to target either sex workers or unhoused people because he didn't think that they would be missed. But he was so fucking wrong because I'm going to tell you about his victim, Warren Barnes, who was a beautiful person and who was loved by so many people. Warren was 69 years old and was a fixture in their community of Grand Junction, Colorado. He loved to read, and he could often be seen sitting in a breezeway behind a shop. It was called Monique's Bridal Shop, engrossed in a book. And he was usually reading like a thriller or like a detective mystery book or a western. Like those were his favorites. Or he would be peacefully napping with an open book in his lap if he dozed off reading.
That's sweet.
He became known by many in the community as the reading man
Aw.
because he could just be seen there so many times. He would often be seen feeding birds, and most days he would eat a Subway sandwich for lunch, which he would share with the birds
Oh,
generously giving half of the bread to his feathered buddies. I mean, he was just a creature of habit who loved the little world that he lived in. And when people passed by and told him to have a good day, he would always respond with, "And you also." That was kind of like his little phrase, like just his little thing. And it's funny to me because like the research that I didn't go too much into it, but he was a cowboy. Like he worked in the mountains of nearby. He just worked as a cowboy. He was kind of like this gruff bearded guy, and he would sit behind a bridal shop. Like, so his aesthetic didn't quite match the shop where he sat, but he was really close with Monique, the owner of this bridal shop, and she took really good care of him. But he was just kind of this gruff cowboy sitting behind her shop. And I love picturing that. I think it's really sweet.
yeah, I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm still trying to process the fucking Brian Jr. is not insane. He knew what he did was wrong. He tried to hide it. He didn't lie to the cops, but he lied to his mama and his daddy.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to fucking,
It's a
I'm
lot
just
to
trying to process.
process.
It is a
Yeah.
lot to process. And it sounds like Warren was just, sounds like we need more Warrens in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless Brian Jr.'s, I need a drink. I need a drink of this shitty fucking
Just plug your
mixed
nose and
drink I
slam
made.
it. There is so much stigma surrounding unhoused people, and they can often be
Yeah.
seen as a nuisance, even if they are doing absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, there used to be benches in that breezeway in downtown Grand Junction. And one of those benches was where Warren could often be seen reading. But the city of Grand Junction ended up taking out those benches because they thought that they attracted homeless people and drunk people leaving bars late at night and just kind of were causing issues. But Monique, the owner of the bridal shop, moved a chair behind her store so that Warren could continue to read in his favorite spot, which is like just so sweet
Yeah.
and a testament to how loved and respected he was.
Yeah.
So he was sort of adopted by the workers and the shop owners in that area who would provide Warren with coffee, books to read, and sometimes cookies or other treats. He never asked for money. He never asked for food. He never asked for anything from anyone, but they liked doing things for their sweet, gentle friend. And
Yeah.
gentle was like the top way. Just gentle and kind were the words that people constantly used to describe him. He didn't have a regular job, but he would work odd jobs. He would often assist some of those shop owners that he'd come to know. He would move boxes for them or clean up parking lots, sweep, just do little tasks like that for them. But he also worked with a temp agency where he would check in pretty much every day to see if there was any work that he could do. And he had a small camp set up under that bridge where Brian hunted him, which is exactly what happened. But he was also known to rent a room in town at times. So he
Mm.
would stay places where he could, but again, just kind of liked the way that he was living.
Hmm.
He had told some people in town that he had a wife, a daughter, and a granddaughter, but it's unclear what his relationship with them was
Mm.
like or if he had a relationship at all. I'm not sure. Warren was known to be kind, hardworking, and polite, who he just wanted to read his books and help people out when he could. Most people, including his own family, didn't even know that he didn't have a home and that he was living on the streets. He never complained about his living situation. He just wanted a place to sit and read. That was
Wow.
all he wanted. So while he didn't have steady employment or set responsibilities, he seemed to keep a pretty consistent routine. So when he said he was going to be somewhere at a specific time, he was there. He was incredibly reliable. So when he wasn't seen the morning of February 28th, when he said he was going to be there, Monique Lenati, who was the owner of this bridal shop, became really concerned. She was so used to seeing him every day. So when Warren had left the previous day, which was a Saturday, he said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And when he wasn't there, she had a feeling that something bad had happened. She ended up posting a picture of Warren on Facebook asking that people keep an eye out for him. And there ended up being like over 500 shares. Like people knew who he was. They were like, oh my God, it's the reading man. Like he just was
He was
known in the
loved.
community.
Yeah.
And when she learned that he hadn't checked in with the temp agency and that they were also worried about him, her concern just grew even more. And then after getting the call from Brian Cohey Sr. about finding Warren's wallet, she ended up calling police to report him missing
Good.
that following Monday. So this would have been, she last saw him Saturday. She reported him missing on Monday, so 2 days later. And the boat ramp wasn't an area that he spent any time. So she was just like, it was alarming to her that his wallet would have been found there. He kind of stayed in his little, like
Yeah.
3 block radius, and that was his world.
So he was routine enough where Monique knew the boat ramp wasn't like his place. Like that's not
Yeah,
his haunting grounds.
he
Yeah.
got lunch at a certain place. Like
He
he
had a
had a
routine.
routine. And so it, didn't take investigators long to connect the dots and verify that Brian's victim was the missing Warren Barnes. So this was another case where there wasn't any question who committed the murder. Brian confessed and seemed to be pretty goddamn proud of the murder, and there was overwhelming evidence against him. The question was whether or not he was insane when he committed the crime.
100% not insane.
Yeah. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and claimed
Mm-hmm.
that some stressors in his life had caused him to go insane when he saw Warren Barnes sleeping under the bridge, which is such bullshit. And so the trial would basically determine if Brian would spend his life in prison or in a state hospital to get mental health treatment, which is sometimes warranted, but it also means that people can get treatment and then they're released even after committing horrific crimes. His trial began in January of 2023, and while they had Brian's confession to the crime, there was also evidence from the crime scenes at the bridge and at the boat ramp to confirm what had happened. Even though Brian cleaned the knife that he used to kill Warren, Warren's DNA was found down like in the crook of the knife,
Sure.
and his blood was also found on rocks at the boat ramp.
Mm.
There is also video footage of Brian driving around cruising for a victim, basically. Like they can just see him driving around looking for someone.
That's eerie.
Yeah, at 11:06 the night of the murder, Brian did a search for waste disposal methods. There were also photos that were found on Brian's phone of the murder scene that he had taken and then deleted, but of course, investigators were able to recover them. He
Fuck.
wanted to document the work that he had done, and he also made a note in his phone of the murder and labeled it as first. It was obvious that he was planning on committing more
Yes.
murders.
What
So, yeah.
a
Isn't
fucker.
that fucking creepy?
Oh, this guy makes me nauseous.
Yeah. His poor mother, Terry, took the stand during the trial for the prosecution, where she expressed her condolences to Warren Barnes's family. She highlighted a lot of the mental health issues that her son had, but she didn't make any excuses for what he had done. She simply asked that her son's sentencing include treatment for his mental health, which is absolutely fair. I hope it does too. Like, I wish all inmates
He
received
definitely, yeah,
mental health treatment that they need.
agreed.
Like, that would make our system so much better and beneficial. One of Brian's closest friends took the stand. This was the friend that he was actually with the day that his parents called the police. Like, he had just come home from this friend's house.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
on the stand, she said that he had a very dark sense of humor and that he was usually talking about or joking about death, violence, or destruction. Like, it just was always very morbid and dark. His nickname in high school was actually Dahmer because of his fascination with serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer and just his general fascination with death. Brian's internet search history revealed searches for fun things like fatal neck wounds, how long it takes for a dead body to start smelling, will a river wash away evidence, and even news stories about a murder in Louisiana of an unhoused person.
This was planned.
Yes. And the year before the murder, Brian's parents had discovered a kill kit in a backpack that he had put together. It had hammers, shovels, knives, some large zip ties, duct tape, and a saw. By his own admission, the kit was meant for hurting people. Like, that was why he had it. So there were some warning signs that his fascination with murder had obviously escalated. His fantasy of killing someone was going to become a reality. Like, he was making these steps to murder. Like, that was his goal. So the night of Warren's murder, Brian wore a dark blue jumpsuit that he had worn the previous Halloween when he went as Michael Myers. If you're not familiar, he is the killer in the Halloween horror movies. He wears a mask and a dark blue jumpsuit. During an interview following his arrest, he said that he associated that jumpsuit with violence, so that's why he chose to wear it that night.
Gross.
Yeah. For the trial, 3 different psychologists examined Brian to, just kind of evaluate his mental state. 2 of them determined that he was completely sane and absolutely knew what the fuck he was doing. A third psychologist hired by the defense, of course, determined that Brian had a psychotic break that caused him to go insane and commit the murder.
No. No.
But thankfully, the jury wasn't buying that bullshit. Following a 12-day trial and 2 days of deliberation, which seems surprising that it took that long, a now 21-year-old Brian Cohey Jr. was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was also sentenced to 2 12-year sentences for tampering with a deceased human body, I should say, and 18 months for tampering with evidence.
Mm.
Like, I think that him having the forethought to wear multiple pairs of gloves to prevent leaving any DNA and his attempt to get rid of the body is all that was needed to know that he knew that what he was doing was wrong and that he was trying to cover it up, and that insanity defense went right out the window.
Yep.
That night at the boat ramp, police said he was coherent. He was aware of what was going on. And, when he was speaking with his parents and the officers at the scene, he didn't seem like he was delusional or hallucinating. He was absolutely lucid. Plus, he had those gloves, the knife, and the face mask in his car ready to go whenever an opportunity arose for him to commit a murder. And
That's
he went back
disgusting.
to move the body and try to cover up what he had done. That all proves planning
Yeah.
and premeditation. He was sane and he knew exactly what he was doing. This was something that he had been dreaming about doing for months, even years, I'm sure, and he absolutely knew right from wrong. I don't buy an insanity of defense for a fucking second.
I have a comment to make about that, and that is the only reason that he gave to authorities after he was arrested that he went back to the bridge to get Warren's body was because all 3 sets of gloves, one hand, they had all
Mhm.
failed, and he was worried about his fingerprints being on
Mhm.
Warren's body. That is the only reason why he went back. And he left his arms and legs there. He only took the torso, the part of the body where he was concerned fingerprints might be. So he didn't give a fuck. He just didn't want to get caught. That is not insanity.
I don't know if his intention was to go back and get the arms and legs too and dispose of them as well.
Oh, but he
But then
fucked
his
up with the car.
yeah,
Yeah.
I it didn't say. I'm assuming that maybe he was planning on going back and getting them and maybe dumping them in different locations, but I'm not sure. And there has been some scrutiny against Brian's parents, Brian Sr. and Terry. You know, people have asked, like, did they ignore or overlook warning signs? Could they have gotten Brian mental health treatment that could have possibly saved Warren Barnes's life? It's hard to say. I mean, it seems like they had seen some red flags with their son's behavior that maybe they chose to overlook, but they did do the right thing by immediately calling police when Terry found body parts in their home. And
Yeah.
I don't think that any parent thinks that their child could be capable of brutally murdering someone just to know what it feels like. But they did turn him into police. His mother testified for the prosecution during the trial. And I imagine that they feel an immense amount of guilt, which to me seems like enough punishment on its own. Like, I think that they did the right thing when they needed to. And I don't know that many parents would do anything different.
So you mentioned that Brian had a kill kit in his
Yeah.
car, ready to go,
Hmm.
and that his mom was it his mom? Was Terry or Brian Sr. found the kill kit?
It said his parents. So
His
I don't
parents.
know if they both, but he had like a backpack that had the knives and the other stuff. And then in his car, he had a knife and the gloves and the face mask.
So I was thinking when you were sharing that, if one of my boys had a backpack in their car that had those kinds of items in it, and I'm a true crime podcaster, would I immediately think, holy Jesus fuck, my kid has a kill kit? I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with both of our boys have go bags in their car. So we put together a go bag. We're not preppers, but we're prepared. So if anything happens, because like Nate is states away in college, you know, our younger Caden is about to be in college. And he's going to be hours away. Like, I want my kids to be safe. And regardless of what happens, macro or micro, I want them to have provisions just in case, because you just never know.
Right.
So if I were to find this backpack full of knives and hammers and fucking duct tape and whatever
Tools and
else,
things.
tools,
Yeah.
I would think that's perfect for building a lean to in the forest ad hoc when you need some sort of
Hmm.
shelter. That's perfect for cutting down trees. Like, that's what I would think.
Right.
No way in fuck would I think that there was a kill kit. Now, my kids don't have, at least as presented so far, a mental illness that errs on the side of they want to know what it feels like to kill someone.
Right. Or obsessed with like morbid
Obsessed with morbid
topics
stuff.
and
Yeah,
serial killers.
exactly. So I do not fault Terry or Brian Sr. for having found this backpack with implements of destruction in it and not immediately thinking it's a kill kit. Parents don't
Right.
think that way about their children. They just don't. They
And
don't.
and and Brian wasn't going to go, "Yeah, I have that for murdering people."
Yeah. Just in case,
Like,
if I'm just driving around and I happen to find, someone, I'm ready to go.
he admitted it to detectives and stuff, but he was also like, "Look, I'm caught. It is what it fucking is. Here's what happened." Like, he was very like, "I'm going to prison.
Bada
I'll
bing,
tell
bada
you what
boom.
happened." Like, he wasn't
Yep.
trying to hide anything. He was just kind of asking questions like, "Do I go to jail or am I going right to prison?" Like, he was just like,
Yeah. He's like, this is what's happening. I'm accepting it. It's like, it is what it is.
he knew what it was and where he was going and opened right up, but he wasn't going to be upfront with his parents like, "I'm going to
Fuck
murder
no.
someone." Yeah.
Yeah. But that leads me to this. And we've mentioned this before on multiple episodes. We have a loophole in our laws and regulations here in the United States, such that Terry and Brian Sr. were also in a really tough spot because had they escalated, they would have been told there's nothing you can fucking do. He hasn't hurt himself and he hasn't hurt someone else. But
Right.
until he actually hurts someone or kills someone, then once he does that, then we can do something. But until that happens, Your hands are tied. I'm sorry. We
Yeah.
have loopholes that you can't prevent when you know there's a collision course that will inevitably happen.
Yeah. That's a good point because it's just what would they have been able to do?
Nothing. They would not have been able to do anything.
He might have been hospitalized for a couple days and then released.
Maybe
No big deal. Yeah, like nothing would have happened.
he was bound and determined to feel what it felt like to kill someone. And until he did that, there was nothing that Terry and Brian Sr. could have done. Now, there are some parents that, because of, there are some cases where the children have done horrible, horrible things, but have stopped short of killing someone. And it's been enough where the parents can raise the red flag and something can be done. It's not, I don't think, at least in the cases that we've heard and we've researched and we've discovered, that's not a common thing. It's
No.
just not. Like the
Yeah.
police are going to say, dude, we hear you and we feel bad, but your child hasn't done anything wrong. There's
Right.
nothing we can do.
Yeah, he hasn't threatened anyone. Like,
So until he fucking decapitates someone, there's nothing we can do. That's pretty fucked.
yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
really
fucked.
fucked. During the sentencing hearing for Brian Cohey, more than 30 friends and relatives of Warren Barnes were in the courtroom to see Brian get sentenced to a lifetime behind
That's a
bars.
lot of people. That makes me happy.
Yeah, many of them gave victim impact statements. Geraldine Shipp, who was one of Warren's 8 siblings,
8.
said about her brother, quote, "He was a man of honor, a man of integrity, a man loved by community and family." And as these statements were read in court, Brian showed absolutely no emotion. He just didn't give a shit. And he chose to end Warren's life because he thought no one would notice his absence or miss him. But Warren is terribly missed. So much so that in November of 2021, so before the trial even started, this was just not long after he was killed, a memorial sculpture of Warren
Oh,
Barnes, the reading man, was installed in that breezeway between
ah,
Out West Books and Monique's Bridal Stores, where he could often be seen reading his books. The sculpture is a bronze replica of the chair that he would sit in to read, with bronze birds gathered around it. And in the chair is a pile of books with the titles of some of his favorite Western books. And etched on the spine of the very top book is Warren's unique phrase, "And you also." And it looks like the wind is I'm about to cry. It
I
looks like
know.
the
I'm
it looks like the wind is blowing like the top
the
book open.
pages.
So it's just like a pile of books in his chair and it's perfect.
Whoever commissioned that, hats off to
Yeah.
them.
He was just so gentle and kind and beloved by the people who knew him. And I think that that is just like the most beautiful way to honor
Yeah,
him.
that's beautiful.
The people who knew him remember him and they loved him. And I know that there was like one, like there was like the bridal shop owner, and then there was a woman who did some sort of finance job. And so she was always dressed up and she was like, people would look at me funny when I would hug this kind of gruff looking cowboy. She's like, I hugged him every day. He was just
Oh,
like the
I love
sweetest
that.
man, and like they just adored him. So, anyway, that is the note that I wanted to end on. And that is the brutal and horrific murder of Warren Barnes by a curious little turd.
I want to study Brian's Jr.'s brain because, again, this is a perfect example of nature versus nurture and the
Mm-hmm.
balance between the two. Because regardless of Brian Sr. and Terry being separated or not, or whatever, it sounds like they were both very invested, loved their child, co
Yeah,
parented really well together, regardless of what the circumstances were, and clearly paid attention.
right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The way that Brian Jr. went about this was awfully premeditated
Mm-hmm.
by months and years, honestly.
Yeah.
But is it truly? But he didn't have an identified victim. he had the fact that he was going to murder somebody premeditated for however long. But is it truly considered a premeditated event if the victim hasn't been specifically identified? Because he didn't premeditate to murder Warren, but he did premeditate to murder Warren. So I'm curious. I'd be interested if anybody's listening and they know the answer to this question. I think it's very nuanced. What was his final verdict? Like charge? Was it first degree?
Yeah.
So they were considering it premeditated.
I would say yes, because he was specifically looking for either sex workers or unhoused people. Because in he said that he was like, those were my targets because I knew that maybe people wouldn't be looking for them. And so I think in his brain, he was like, if I just, because he was like scouting homeless camps and like
Got it.
looking for people. And so I think that in his brain, he was like, I can just kill as many of them as I want and nobody's going to fucking know.
Yeah. So then that would be premeditated.
I think he would cruise around at night looking for someone that was by themselves, and it just so happened that night he saw Warren sleeping under that bridge by himself and he was like, perfect.
Did he ever say how many times he cruised around until he found Warren?
He just said that it had been like multiple nights that he would just drive around for hours, like scouting camps and watching people and just waiting for an opportunity.
That is a heartbreaking tale. R.I.P. Warren.
The people that knew him said that he kind of detached himself from these like quote unquote homeless camps where multiple people would kind of camp together, that he didn't want to be associated with the people. I don't know if they like begged for money or if there was like substance abuse issues or whatever it was, but he was just kind of a loner. He liked to be by himself. And unfortunately, that's what made him such an easy target.
Yeah.
Was that he chose to not
He was
be
vulnerable.
around other people. And it's just so damn sad. He was like, I don't want to get tied into any
The
other
riffraff.
bullshit. Like
Yeah.
I just like the peace. I like to sleep in quiet, and that's what made him so vulnerable, and it sucks so bad. So that is the horrifying case and just the tragic end of just a sweet, kind man who left a major impact on his community in the best way.
Thank you for sharing that with me and with all of our listeners, because now we know about Warren. Now we know what kind of amazing man he was, and we can give his memory a little bit of uplift and voice.
Right? Yeah. Maybe we can all read a book for Warren, or when we're reading, just remember.
I like that. Yeah. Dedicate your reading piece to Warren. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck.
But thank you for listening to me, Carrie, as always. And thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you so much. And if wherever you listen to your podcasts, rate, review, subscribe, give us all the likes. We'll take them. We love them. They make us so happy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We have crimehotelpod.com. It's our website.
Yes. We got merch. We got some cool shirts and some other stuff happening. If you want some merch, that would be awesome. If you have any questions, comments, show ideas, send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or shoot us an email to crimehotelpod@gmail.com.
There are a few of our listeners that have started engaging with us, and it has been really fun. So you know who you are. I'm not going to say names because I didn't get permission, but you know who you are. Keep it going. It's fun. And we enjoy it. We love it. And we have a couple of listeners that have started buying merch.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you for supporting our show and wearing our shit and promoting us.
We love you guys. We appreciate your support.
Yes.
And with that, goodbye, Carrie.
Goodbye, James.
3, 2, 1. Yeah.
I can't fucking hear you, bitch.
You're making a murderer.
Girl, you are fucking creepy.
I'm I'm a little jealous that you two are now soulmates.
This'll make it better.
Okay, okay.
Oh my god, I think I'm gonna vomit, orgasm, and shit all at the same time.
I'm just gonna say that again.
Fuck yeah, you are.
Anyway,
It's time to sneeze.
you're gonna snot all over the place.